being there and being that it's next to these two different types of hospitals, I think it's a good location. Hey everyone, so I received a question through Instagram asking about larger size apartments or townhomes or houses near parks and maybe even with a dog. So this is what I'm going to look up today. I'm going to try to find an apartment or show you the apartments that I would consider and look at, how much they cost and what are the amenities, and how exactly is it that you can find an apartment with a dog. Okay, so that's what we're going to get into today. So I'm going to do that through Idealista, which I've done one video on Idealista so far, just showing you a way to maybe find the good areas in Zaragoza. But here I'm going to show you what are the homes that I would actually look at. So we're going to be on Viviendas and we're going to just search Zaragoza. And you're going to see immediately it's switching to English because, as I told you before, I have that plugin. So these are all of the areas in Zaragoza. They're divided here on Idealista, all the different little neighborhoods, okay? I'm going to look at this through all of them, verlas. And then let's see. I'm going to put it on, it's on alquilar right here, which is for renting. If you wanted to buy, you would click comprar, alquilar, renting, and I have to continue to switch back to Spanish. And over here on the filters, all I'm going to do is mark one filter. That's going to show me more, give me more options, okay? The more filters you put, the less options you have. And on Idealista, sometimes the owners or the agents, they don't list everything in the right way to show what it is you're looking for. So they might not mark that it's okay to have a pet, even though, as far as I know, the law is that you can have pets and they cannot stop you from having a pet in your apartment. But obviously you don't want to start out on the wrong foot with an owner, but you don't want to select that filter because technically you're allowed to have legally allowed to have a pet in an apartment. So I'm going to not go off of the price. I'm not going to click anything except for 4 bedrooms. That's it. And I'm going to make sure we're on rentals, and then I'm going to see what there is. Now, here's your list. Okay? This is the list. And but you can't tell where everything is at. So we're going to click to look to see it in the map. Ver en mapa. And this is going to bring us right into the whole region or city of Zaragoza. But being out here is not where you want to be, okay? You want to be in here inside the city limits. All of this is not the city limits. Okay, so we're going to be, really, you want to probably live inside of this circle here. And I'm going to look at the places that are by the parks. Starting with that, I know that around in here is a good area, and also where they have townhomes and houses. There's a hospital, there's a private hospital there. Quirón Salud has a good reputation here. Also over here, you have a public hospital, so that's a good spot. So we're going to look at these 2 places that have come up that they say that they have 4 or more bedrooms. So let's see what they are. This is Parque Grande here. It's a very large park. So if you happen to have a dog, it would be a good place to go walk them. Of course, it's good to go there to play, and there's tons of activities there. Lots of sports, walking, all kinds of, they have festivals there, everything. So lots to do being there, and being that it's next to these 2 different types of hospitals, I think it's a good location. And then also you have a tram stop right here, and Romareda right here. And another hospital. This is a public hospital that has really good ratings here. If you Google it, you will see that it's right in line with the Quirón Salud Hospital as far as service and care and how people rate the hospitals here. Let's look at this one. This is in this area called Ruiseñores. And I have heard from one of my Instagram followers that this is a very nice area. So let's see about this apartment. I'm going to show you first. Now, my translator just went and automatically translated to English. So I'm going to show you how on some of the websites, when you translate it, the website does not function correctly. So I'm going to show you that right now. When you click read full comment, it just goes back up to the top. It doesn't give you any more information. It doesn't allow you to see it. Now, if I go and switch back to Spanish, the website will function correctly, but maybe you can't read this. So Thankfully, Idealista has their own translator. So if you go right here, you can switch it to English and then you can see everything and the website will function correctly. Okay. So this is an apartment, 124 square meters. That's not very big compared to apartments in the United States. 4 bedrooms, and it's on the 10th floor. It's exterior, which means the windows are going to the outside, not the inside. In the apartments here, sometimes you have a square of an apartment, and in the center, you might have a patio or just a roof of a building. And that is what they call the interior. And so it doesn't get as much sunlight. So if you have an interior apartment, sometimes they cost less, but that's because a lot of the windows are pointing to the interior where you're not getting that natural light and you just don't have a nice view of the outside. So that's why they put that there, exterior with an elevator. The other thing that I will mention is that it says 124 square meters. That's the total space in the apartment, including any outdoor space that's included, like any patios, porches, or terraces. That doesn't mean that it's the livable space. You're not going to use a patio as a bedroom or a kitchen or a living room, most likely. So that's not counted as livable space, but that's the total area in the whole apartment that you're paying for when you rent it, and not including like a garage or a storage room, but that's including the livable space in the apartment, including terraces, any type of outdoor space that's attached to the apartment. Okay. One of the things I like to do in managing Idealista is to create an account. And then when I make a phone call to an owner, I can click right here where it says add your note, and I can include any notes of anything that they've said. They didn't answer the phone, or I left a message, or they won't rent to someone without a job contract, or when is the appointment, or whatever, because eventually you will realize that you're starting to call the same properties again and again. And so you want to leave some sort of notes in Idealista so that you can track, oh, I already called them. You can put them on your favorites here with this heart, different things like that. Okay, so I really like using it in that way. Okay, so now let's get to the apartment. It says it's completely renovated and it's brand new furnished apartment. So everything you see in it, you're going to get in the rental price for that 1650 euros, which off the top of my head, that's probably around $1,800, but I'm not converting it with a calculator. I'm just going off of what I know about the currency conversion right now. Okay, so yes, it says it's in a great area. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so 4 double bedrooms, which are going to be 4 large bedrooms. So you could definitely have more than one kid in one of these bedrooms. Perfect for large families, perfect for having guests. 2 complete bathrooms. One of them is en suite within the master. High quality materials. It has a kitchen that's fully equipped with brand new appliances. That means microwave, dishwasher, stove, oven. And let's check at the pictures and see if there's laundry. It says they have great storage capacity, living room, fully furnished, again, with functional furniture. You don't need to buy anything, completely renovated. Quiet and well-maintained community. It says that there's a possibility of a parking space that's going to cost extra, with access from the same elevator of the community. So what happens here is usually under the building is where you park. You don't park outside on the street unless you want to. You're paying for that. But if you have a parking spot with your apartment, it's going to be in the parking that goes with that building underground. Okay, so it's in the area of Universidad-Romareda, which I've already mentioned, hospitals, University of Zaragoza, grocery stores, sports centers, gyms, Parque Grande, yes, lots of cafes and things. Okay, so let's see. 124 square meters, 2 bathrooms, 4 bedrooms, terrace, built in 1976, central heating, which we would need to clarify if that means that central heating here means that it's controlled by the building. Central heating in the United States means that you have control of it in your unit or your home. So that meaning is different here. So if you were going to go and visit this place, you would want to ask questions about what is the heating like, who controls the access to the heating, who controls the temperature, how much say do you have in when you can use heating and how much you're using. And the same thing goes for the air conditioner. If there are not split units there and they say that they have air conditioning, then it must come through the vents, and you want to confirm that you have a say and control over your own air conditioning, or is it controlled by the building management? So this was just posted or updated yesterday. It's 1 day old. Okay, so here are the pictures. So this makes it easy. You just keep scrolling. This is the living room. I'm going to expand this on the screen. Living room is pretty typical here to have a table in the living room. It's kind of like you have like a dining space and a living room in one room. And then when you go into the kitchen, normally there will be a seating area there too. So you kind of have like that formal type of feeling here that we don't always have in homes in the United States. Some of them, yes, I know, but it's not a standard characteristic. Whereas here, it's very common to have two eating places, one in a more formal type of environment and the other one within the kitchen. So this is again a view of the living room. And you can see, I don't see any split units hanging here in either photo, but I do see some vents. That does not mean that that's where the air conditioning is coming from, but it could be. That's a question to ask if you were to go visit the apartment. And you can see this is a large table for 6. There's space to walk around in the pictures. Sometimes they stretch the photos so that they're not actually realistic when you get to the place. The actual room is a lot smaller than it looked on the computer because they stretch the photos. So you want to look for different things that indicate that, yes, this is a large room, like this table and some little space to walk around. This is a large room. These 2 couches over here, one of them looks like a love seat, a 2-seater, and then you have the longer 2-seater. But the fact that there's a picture above this one and 2 pictures above this one tells me that this couch is possibly longer than that one. So this is probably more like a traditional sofa, with this being what we call a love seat in the US. So this room is probably actually as large as it looks in the picture. And you can see there's a lot of space for a family here, especially if you did not have the dining room in there, then you would have an extra sitting space. Okay, see 38 more photos. So we're gonna have more pictures of the living room, which I don't need to spend a lot of time on. So again, the living room with all that natural light. And then you also saw there's this door here with more lighting. Right here, this looks like it might go out to a terrace, so outdoor space there, right off the living room and dining area, okay? More of the living room and the living room. They really are showcasing the living room and the dining room. Okay, so here we have a bedroom, and let's see. I noticed that there are these monitors here on the heaters. That means that you're probably paying for what you use, and they have 1, 2, at least 3 outlets that I can see here, which is good because a lot of times a room will only have 1 or 2. So that's good. It's definitely updated in that way as well. And then this is the same. So this is one side of the room, and then they're taking a picture here from the perspective of the bed. So you can see that it looks like it's sort of a narrow room, but good enough. It comes with a closet, which is good. Lighting fixtures, good. Curtains, windows, the persianas, these are good windows. These types of windows open like a door, and then you can also turn the handle the other way from what it is now, where it's pointing up instead of down, and it will open from the top to allow some ventilation. Now, a second bedroom where there is a desk. So this is another, again, with the outlets and things, and this side of the room with it looks like this window might actually be to the interior. This is the room again with the 4 outlets and closet. This is a nice home. Um, this is a 3rd bedroom. So these bedrooms, they're calling them double bedrooms. So they probably, imagine that you could probably fit in some of these rooms, maybe a set of bunk beds or something if you needed to put 2 kids in a room, or 2 twin beds, because there are the lighting and the outlets on both sides. You could probably fit 2 twin beds in here. Then you're going to be in a situation where you might need to ask the owner to remove some of the furniture because you need a different bedding setup. So that's just something you have to ask after you meet them. Do not call and ask all of these questions right off the bat, because you want to make your first impression in person. So obviously you have to make the phone call, and then they're going to ask you some questions that feel kind of personal, more personal than what we're used to in the United States. You're going to have to be able to give the answers confidently. They may say, no, we won't rent to anyone who doesn't have a work contract. Okay, well then they're off your list. Or they may say, yeah, we can make some adjustments with our requirements for you. You manage to get the appointment, and then you go and meet in person, meet the owner, meet the agent, see what they're like, see what your dynamic is like, and judge from the questions in their demeanor, how flexible you think they're going to be, how much maybe they like you, and then you start with your questions. That's when you start with your can we move some of the furniture out questions if it's not already listed in the listing. Like this one says that it comes furnished. So that's going to be an exception where you're going to have to say, look, I need to put 2 kids in this room. So can I remove this bed and put in a set of bunk beds instead? Or can I remove that desk because I don't really need it in here because I have a baby and maybe I want to put a changing table there or something? Or maybe you use the desk as a changing table. You have to ask your questions there. Can I bring a dog in here? Can I have a cat in here? That's when you start to ask those types of questions. Okay. Legally, as far as I know, legally, you're allowed to have pets. They can't tell you no. Um, how you kind of like get into that conversation with the owner, with an agent to ask, because I've never done it before. I just know from what I've seen online that it's the law that they can't deny you rental because of a pet. But you also don't want to get in on the wrong foot with the owner, right? So you have to ask the questions. And, maybe if you go and look at a few rentals and you're asking that question in person and you're getting the no answer, then you maybe reshape how it is that you're presenting the situation. Wait a little later until you just ask the question. Okay, so this again is a bedroom with a closet. So this is good that there's closets. I'm guessing there's probably central air conditioner. This room looks like it's large. Here is your shower. This is pretty typical here, not having a shower curtain or a door. It's like the new way of doing things. But you can hang a shower curtain here, or you could go buy a rod and curtain if you wanted to have that covered. I like it covered because I think that they make a mess in the bathroom with the water coming out and everything, but personal preference, I guess. These are cabinets right here that you pull open, and normally they have some organization going on inside of the cabinets. Here you have the kitchen. You see looks like a typical European refrigerator, a brand new oven, microwave, and then the stove over here. This is also very common to have the stove and the oven separated. And then you have the drawers under here, and you can see what I was talking about. In the distance is another table that you may or may not need. You use it as you will, like maybe you decide this is going to be where you're going to work from home in an office. That is what they sometimes advertise this space for. Okay, so this is like an alley type of kitchen. Don't know what's down there on the other side. This looks like a large sink. I suspect that these are hidden doors for probably a dishwasher. One of these spaces over here, unless I see a dishwasher somewhere, which I don't. So normally they're going to be hidden in there if you don't see it just outright. And since this place is updated and modern, they probably have it here or over here. So just because you don't see it in the images does not mean that it's not there. All right, this is the front door. Little foyer. Let's see, there's the hallway again. It looks like one of the bedrooms are off of here. It's nice, it's got like the new lighting up there. Going on and on. Here's the terrace outside, so that's the door that was to the living room. And what's outside your terrace, I don't know what this is a view of. This to me looks like an interior view, but I don't know what's off to the left. Would have to go look at it. And so here you have a view from somewhere. Is this from the terrace? Is this from a bedroom? I have no idea. But this is a view of Zaragoza from the 10th floor of that apartment. So somewhere in there, this is the exterior view. Now, this is obviously a very nice building. This is what apartment buildings look like here. They're not apartment buildings in Spain are not set up like they are in the US, where you pull up into a parking lot, you have an office, and then everything else is apartments from the ground up. Here on the ground floor, you have these nice entryways, and right next door downstairs, like you'll be going in from the outside, opening the door to your apartment building, and right next door you can have a grocery store or a pharmacy. Then you walk inside and you will sometimes, not always, have a doorman, a set of stairs, an elevator, a mail section. And this place is very nice, obviously. It looks like a nice hotel in there with the seating and everything. You can find things like this, or you can find things a little bit lower key. But this is what an apartment building looks like in Spain, on the bit of the extravagant side, obviously. So you walk in and then you find your elevator or you find your stairs and you go up into your apartment. This floor here is called planta baja, or floor zero. So if you're in an apartment on the 10th floor, it's going to be the equivalent in the United States to the 11th floor, because in the US we call the ground floor floor one, but here they call it zero. So everything is one number higher than what you're going to be used to. So you're not going to be on the 10th floor, you're going to be on the 11th floor. Here are the elevators. This says the left elevator and the right elevator, and that will be in your your address. It'll say which stairs you go up, left or right. And okay, so here we are on the outside of the building. So this is obviously the building that the apartment is in. And then the entrance is in here probably. Or maybe this is from the outside of the building and what you look at when you go there. But I suspect this is actually the building. And so the door to the apartment is somewhere in here. And that's what you see when you walk in, is the view that we just saw. So this is the apartment that is right in here. Really great area. And let's see, I am going to look and see what is required to rent, because that's what we really want to know. What's required to rent? Here's the information, and you're going to notice, because we already read it and I remember now, that there's nothing here about what they want. So it doesn't say that you need a contract, a work contract, 1 month's deposit, 1 year's deposit, an eval, a guarantee. It doesn't say. So you have to call and you have to ask, what are the renting requirements, and see what they say. Normally, you're going to be pre-qualified before you get into an apartment. That's why when you actually go to look at an apartment, you have to be ready to put money down. You have to be ready to say, I like this place, I want it, what are the next steps? And you have to be ready to send them some money, give them some money, get a receipt, go to the renter's office right away, to the agent's office, and do some deposit paperwork and pay them the money right there. I mean, we've had situations where we've been like, yes, we want it. We go to the ATM, we get the money, we go meet the agent at their office and the owner, and we do the deposit paperwork right there, and we pay it, and we leave with that place on hold for us, having signed the deposit, having made all the agreements right then and there. So you got to be ready to take action. You don't start looking for an apartment here when you want to move in a month. You start looking for an apartment here when you're ready to move in or start paying within the next 2 weeks. Okay, so 3 weeks is kind of pushing it. 1 month is really pushing it. It shouldn't take you that long to find an apartment here if you're serious. And you have to be willing to make some concessions, because you're not going to find the exact apartment, that, oh, this is my dream home, but you have to be ready to move. And you're not, and if you say, I don't like it, or let me think about it, they'll say, okay. But if somebody else comes along and is ready to go, they could take them. And it's not like, oh, but I was next, that's not fair. No, that's not how things are here. You got to be ready to do it right away, or you could lose this place. So that's why I say you have to be willing to be ready to make a commitment when you're going to look at the apartment. Before you even get there, they will pre-qualify you with an insurance company, or they will pre-qualify you financially. You'll have to send them some bank information, your deposits, your pictures, your visa, your passport, all types of things that you're going to think is way too much personal information for just to go visit a rental, because in the United States, we don't do things like that. First, we go and look, and then you do all of that other stuff if you like the place. But here, they don't want to take you to go see a place if you're not actually a viable candidate. So here first, they make sure you're a viable candidate, and then they want to meet you, and then they will make some decisions from there, as will you. You have to remember, not everything is on their plate. Some of it is on your plate, and you do have the right to walk away and say, I don't want to spend this much money. I don't want to put down that type of a deposit. I don't want to pay the fee that I'm not supposed to have to pay. So people ask for things here that they shouldn't, and that they're legally not allowed to. And you can decide, you're going to protest that by not renting from those people, or you're going to continue to perpetuate these things that are happening now and rent from them. That's up to you, and how kind of desperate you are to find a place. But anyways, This is 1,650 euros for 4 bedrooms, and I think it's a nice apartment. Um, you know, I'll tell you the truth. Our apartment is in the center. It's not by a park, but it's bigger than this. It has more bedrooms than this, and it costs less money than this. And we have a community area for the kids to play in, but it's not by like a green park, you know. In the interior of our building, we have a play area, a large patio where they can play football, where they can skate, ride their bikes, and a small playground for the littlest kids. It's not like an extravagant park like Parque Grande, but this is more expensive. So even though I like this apartment, I wouldn't pay this much money for that size apartment in that location. But it is nice and it's in a good area and it's by a park. And some people will consider that this is a great price because of where they're coming from. So it's in the right area. So that's what people want to know. Yes. What area? What are the good areas? So that's a good area. Let's go to the next one.